a video I have been meaning to get to for many years. Oh, I just love this. If you like charcuterie, if you like nose-to-tail eating, and if you've ever wondered what a terrine and aspic is, this video is going to show you a lot of different things. This is like a master class on making pork head cheese, but also you can use a lot of different meats to make a terrine and aspic. Shout out to Lenny Russo at Heartland restaurant when it was open. He taught me how to make this, and we used to sell a slice of head cheese for like $16. Okay, it was hard to find a pig head, and most of them are going to be peeled now. That's totally fine. You can get a skinned pig head. Ideally, you want it to be halved because it's much, much easier to work with. Call a local farmer and get a pig head. You don't need the brain. First thing we need to do is to make a brine. So we're going to take some salt and some sugar and just mix that together. We're going to add some spices and pink salt. Don't skip the pink salt. It's not going to taste the same. This is Instacure number 1. And the vegetables here in the brine, these are optional. I like to add them because I usually have extra vegetables. We're going to bring that to a boil. Then we're going to add ice water. This is going to make it so that the brine cools down faster so we can brine our pig heads as quick as possible. So take your halved pig heads. You can see there's no skin on those. This is actually kind of nice. Pour your brine over that and all the vegetables, and we're going to refrigerate that for a few days. I love my garage fridge for that. You know, you can do it overnight if you need to, but ideally 2, maybe even 3 days. Now we're going to drain that pig head, and we're going to put fresh vegetables and fresh herbs and water, and then we're going to simmer it for like 3 to 4 hours until the bone moves freely, and then we're going to chill it. And then, this is important, one of the goals here is we are constantly trying to be aware of the amount of fat, and we're going to skim as much fat from that as we can. Then we're going to heat that back up, and we're going to strain all of that piggy liquid, and we're going to get ready to pick the head meat. This is one of the more putsy things. This is like the art form here, is picking the meat and understanding what is good meat and what is going to taste fatty or not have a nice texture. And you really need to, wear gloves. You don't want to be having piggy hands. There's so much pig fat going on here. But we're picking the meat off, and we are trying to make sure that we only have pieces of solid meat. Then I'm going to take that jowl off. We'll clean that a little bit later. But the higher level of learning here is really putting yourself in the seat of the person who will be eating this, and if there's anything that is a weird texture or is gristly or fatty or strange, that goes into the discard pile for your chickens or whatever. So anything that feels in my fingers like it would be weird feeling in my mouth that is not meat, that goes into the discard. Any pieces of pure meat go into the meat pile. Now here, this is really important. This is the ocular meat. And a lot of people don't talk about this. This is one of the best pieces of meat on the head. It is not the eyeball. It is located behind the eye socket. But all of this meat is coming off as much as possible. Anything that looks like meat goes in the top bowl, and we're just getting off as much as we can. And again, you don't need to save the eyes or anything like that. Then we're just going to repeat that with the other side of the head, and then we're going to take the meat and we're going to cool it down because it's still a little bit warm, and we need it to be cold so that we can get nice cuts out of it. Next, trimming the face meat of fat. So we already trimmed the head and we picked the head. We're going to go over it again as I'm getting ready to slice the meat. I'm just going to go over and pick off any little other things that I may have missed, and we're just giving it a little bit of some detail work. Here's that jowl. Now you can see a lot of this, a big layer of fat is going to come off. That's kind of why I saved it here, just to show you a good example. Okay, you can see all of that fat has got to come off. We want only meat. And even with the amount that I'm trimming it here, we still have a little bit of fat that I have to trim off the finished product, but it's totally fine. This is a learned skill. It's a very rustic dish, and it's kind of magical. Then we're going to take our meat and we're going to cut it into pieces. You don't necessarily have to do this, but I like kind of the stained glass mosaic pattern that it gets with the different colors of meat and things like that. So just cut the meat into kind of bite-sized pieces, roughly into cubes. Now, reducing the aspic. we're going to take that pork cooking liquid that we strained and we're putting it into a pot, and this needs to get reduced down to almost exactly 2 cups. And as this is cooking, I'm skimming fat off of it if I can see it. Now we're going to do a little set test. This is obviously not ready, but you can see it's already going to gel, but we need it much more firm than that. So we're going to reduce this down, like I said, until it gets to basically exactly 2 cups is like the magic number. You can see here's just a little video from my iPhone. We're getting down there. You want to keep a close eye on the liquid as it reduces. If it burns, you're absolutely screwed. So do not burn the head cheese liquid. I've seen it happen. It would make you cry. Okay, assembling the terrine. Now all we need to do is take our terrine mold. You could use anything you have. You could use a coffee can lined with cling film. I'm rubbing a little bit of oil on the terrine so that the cling film adheres to the bottom. That's a nice little trick for anytime you're working with a terrine that you're going to unmold like this. Put a little cling film on. Now we're going to take that reduced liquid. Like I said, it's like exactly 2 cups. And we're going to mix that with the meat. You can adjust the seasoning here a little bit and taste it if it needs a little bit more salt. You can always add salt. You can't take it out. And then we just pack all of the meat and its reduced juice into the terrine mold. And you want to make sure to press it down. You don't just pour the liquid over the meat in the mold. You must mix it together because it needs to be completely saturated so that all the sides will stick together. Now we just press it down a little bit, put a top on, and refrigerate it overnight to set. Okay, unmolding and trimming. We went through a lot of work to take fat off of the head cheese, but still there's fat that clings to the meat. You could pour boiling water over the meat before you pack it into the terrine mold, but an easy thing to do, because it's going to rise to the top, is just trim like a 1/4 inch off of the whole terrine. You'll see, because you can see that white pork fat there. We don't want to have that on the plate. Just take that, fry it up, make it into a sandwich. It's fantastic. Also, you can vacuum seal head cheese and then just thaw it, and it works like a charm. That's what I'm doing for my events. Now let's taste some. Hey everybody. Today we're talking about head cheese. Fromage de tête. Pig Face Loaf. Here it is. I already froze some of it because I'm going to use it for events this year. I wanted to make sure to eat some head cheese so we can do just like a little comparison or an introduction to what it tastes like. So I have a little bit of head cheese here with some mustard. So the first thing you taste with head cheese is it tastes like ham because you're brining it and boiling it just like some hams might be. You can also smoke the head first to get a smoky head cheese. It is not gamey. That has to do with the way that it's prepared. It's soaked and then cooked with a whole bunch of vegetables. And the meat on a pig face is really good stuff. You have pork jowls and the cheeks. This is really, really good, rich meat. So head cheese just tastes like ham. It's really mild tasting. It's not livery or organy or anything like that. It just tastes, it kind of tastes like really good lunch meat. And I could just sit here and just eat it like this. It's so good. It's so mild. The seasoning comes from the gelatin from the meat stock that's been reduced. And that just kind of melts in your mouth a little bit. A terrine and aspic is really, it's really a feat, a beautiful thing to make. A terrine and aspic is something, you can make all kinds of meat into a terrine and aspic. It's just so good. It's just mildly porky. And yeah, it's going to end up tasting kind of like lunch meat. It's fantastic. Especially with a little bit of mustard and a pickle. There you go. Classic pork head cheese. But like I mentioned, you can make terrine and aspic out of a lot of different things. Here's one that I make out of venison shanks and venison trotters. And then I used to buy beef necks to make a beef nectarine with black trumpet mushrooms in it. And my servers called it the beef nectarine. Go figure. Anyway, the full recipe and everything is on my website. There's a link at the top of the video description for that. If you try the head cheese, please leave a comment. If your family has a tradition of making it, please leave a comment. One of my favorite pieces of charcuterie. Thanks for watching.